Across the nation, others are talking about issues concerning vapes, and today you're going to hear the other side of the issue.
New weather technology here at the airport are making operations more efficient, especially in the wintertime. I'll have more here in a few minutes.
Good morning to you and welcome to your Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Missy O'Malley with Chet Lehman. Matt Elwell has our forecast here in the moment, which I'm trying to avoid here for just another minute. We're coming up on 6:30. Our top story for you now. A Butte man was back in court yesterday after police have connected him to another crime.
Yeah, now he's facing charges tied to a smoke shop robbery. Investigators say Michael St. Pierre, that's him there, was an accomplice to a robbery at Mellow Mood Pipe and Tobacco in Bozeman. In that case, court documents show Matthew Neurlander and is accused of stealing a $400 water pipe, then running from an employee who chased him.
And when the employee stopped him in the parking lot, investigators say Neurlander took out a gun, fired it at the employee towards the MSU dorm building, and then ran off. Now, according to Bozeman City Police, St. Pierre is also charged with robbery after surveillance cameras outside caught him taking off from the scene.
And he is relatively young. I think he's 18 or 19 years old, and he isn't in facilitating a robbery involving another individual here in Bozeman.
St. Pierre eventually admitted to working with Neurlander when investigators showed him that footage. St. Pierre's bond was set at $50,000 to run concurrently with his other $50,000 bond for his DUI charge.
In other news this morning, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention say 7 deaths across the nation can now be connected to using vapes.
This is caused with states like New York with their ban with their flavored to e-cigarettes entirely. Now, MTN's Cody Boyer was able to talk with the owner of a vape shop in Bozeman to hear what he thinks.
As an industry, we are pushing for tighter control measures.
Ron Marshall co-owns Freedom Vapes in Bozeman alongside his wife. For them, he says it started with looking for a solution.
I was a 32-year smoker. 2 packs a day, and the wife was 3 packs a day. She used it, and it was just like, boom. This will work.
According to the CDC, Montana was recently found to have 3.9% of its population using e-cigarettes to smoke and growing. And with their researchers looking into 380 other cases of lung illnesses in the U.S. associated with e-cigarettes, Marshall recognizes there is a problem. But to him, the real question isn't if you are vaping.
The question should be, what were you vaping?
To Marshall, it started with Juul.
Number one, they manipulate the nicotine with benzoic acid. What that does is it cuts the harshness of the hit of the nicotine down so that you can actually do more.
Then darker sources, counterfeit vapes, adding chemicals that Marshall says shouldn't be there.
We don't use oil, we use propylene glycol, vegetable glycerin, basically the same ingredients you'd find in an asthma inhaler. And you've got these guys who are taking THC oil and they're cutting it with the vitamin E acetate, which is an oil.
Others, including in the state of New York, say flavors make vaping more enticing to underage kids who might use the internet to buy vapes illegally. Marshall adds there's more to it than flavor.
Well, last time I checked, most adults still like flavors. Unless you're on a steady diet of rice cakes and water, forget about it.
Marshall says his concerns lie in other statistics, like alcohol-related deaths and cigarette-related health issues.
We're in a business to basically eventually go out of business because, your customers will all eventually say, well, I switched from smoking to vaping and I kept lowering my nicotine level down, and now I really don't need it anymore.
In Bozeman, Cody Boyer, MTN News.
Now, Marshall also agrees with other points, including the selling of vapes online. He says should be better controlled or removed as an option altogether.
Wow, it is quite the topic.
Definitely
right now.
the hottest topic out on social media in the world right now,
Certainly,
chatting about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Until now. Now we're going to talk
The
about
hottest topic out there was that weather we used to have. Yeah.
That's right. Temperatures this morning get to the 40s. We have a little light rain showing up on radar this early part of the day. We've had a little light rain in the Butte area from time to time for the early morning. A couple of rays of sun possible for areas, especially east of the divide. Light rain showers for the afternoon and evening, but our heaviest rain really coming for the Butte area, Anaconda. Those areas could be dealing with some decent showers, especially as you get into the evening. We'll talk more about the timeline on all this, of course, in just a few minutes.
Thank you for that, Matt. Now, something we don't see a lot wandering through our backyards.
That's right. Polson area resident shot video of 3 young grizzly bears Wednesday morning trespassing in her backyard. Woman tells us the bears were playing with sticks just feet from her back porch.
Oh my
Lingered
gosh.
for a little while. Homeowner lives about 3 miles outside of Polson along the east shore of Flathead Lake.
Okay, that's just, I got my heart rate going. Scoot. Get out of here, trespassers. Wow, and Montana Highway Patrol troopers got to play a little cowboy yesterday.
That's right. They were rounding up some stray cattle. Semi-truck hauling the cattle overturned just after 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon. Happened on southbound I-15 at the Interstate 90 junction. No other vehicles were involved in that crash. No word yet on what caused it or the condition of the driver.
And the state has agreed to pay $75,000 to a Missoula lawmaker.
It covers his attorney fees for successfully challenging a secrecy provision in the state's ethics laws. The settlement comes from a lawsuit filed by Republican House Majority Leader Brad Cheetah related to his ethics complaint against Governor Steve Bullock from back in 2016.
Now, Cheetah's complaint said that the governor improperly used a state plane when he and the state commerce director attended a Paul McCartney concert in Missoula. The complaint was later dismissed. Cheetah asked to have his attorney costs covered, and the state decided to settle the case this week.
Now, meanwhile, Governor Bullock is counting on Iowa to give him a chance at the Democratic nomination for president. But a new poll of likely Iowa voters doesn't give Bullock a lot of hope.
That's right. That poll shows Bullock at just 1%. Former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Elizabeth Warren are still the favorites at 25 and 23%.
That poll was released by Focus on Rural America. That's a prominent Democratic group in Iowa. At 1%, Bullock is in a tie for 10th in that state.
And Bozeman Yellowstone International Airport has new technology that helps planes arrive and leave on time.
MTN's Carson Vickroy has more.
Winter travel can be stressful and delayed, so Bozeman Airport has installed runway sensors to measure and forecast surface conditions on the tarmac.
A ground temperature sensor that tells us kind of the frost depth or the amount of heat stored in the ground, as well as surface conditions like wind and precipitation. And we're able to use that system to forecast how the upcoming weather is going to affect what we actually have on the ground.
Most commercial flights use this runway behind me here at Bozeman Airport for their operations. Now, what these weather sensors have been doing is they give crews a heads up when they need to perform operations to get you off the ground smoothly.
For us, it is all about making decisions and using those tools to help us make that discretionary decision as to what tool we need to implement on the runway to keep that runway safe and usable.
This technology is necessary for a fast-growing airport like Bozeman. This can also cause timely challenges for on-time arrivals.
We have earlier flights going out in the morning, later flights coming in at night, and so we're continuing to expand our hours of operations for what we do to make sure that no matter what time those planes come in, that we're here to take care of the runway for them.
Ted also tells me that there's a zero-tolerance policy for snow on the runway. In Belgrade, meteorologist Carson Vickroy, MTN News.
Carson tells us the new technology was put into use last winter, proved to be very effective.
And new this morning, a group helped with the upkeep of the important place to Montana's military.
MTN's Andy Curtis takes us there.
The Fort Harrison Veterans Cemetery in Helena is the final resting place for many of Montana's bravest men and women. But there was no rest Wednesday for the arborists and volunteers with the nationwide program Saluting Branches, who came from across Montana to help prune trees and do some other groundskeeping work that helps keep this place safe and beautiful for vets and their families.
It's just seeing these cemeteries, all these people buried here, and being able to do something to help beautify this place, because we see a lot of visitors here while we're working, and they're so appreciative of what we're doing. So I think it's a great event, and that's why it's caught on so much across the country.
And volunteer events like this one are a big help to the grounds crew here at the VA. They have a lot of ground to cover and typically not a lot of bodies to do it.
This is great because we're limited manpower, limited budget, and so for these guys to come out and donate material and time and equipment is invaluable to us.
Not to mention their experience in what can be a dangerous line of work.
Between the cemetery and the
main campus over here for the hospital, there's about 400 trees here. So to keep them trimmed and healthy, this is a very good project.
A project worth growing.
Veterans deserve to have this place looking immaculate.
In Helena, Andy Curtis, MTN News.
It's awesome.
I love that story.
Me too.
That's great.
Fantastic.
That's great. Also new this morning, after years of hard work, the commissioning for the Navy warship, the USS Billings, went off without a hitch this past August.
Now, last night it was time to say thanks to some of the folks and businesses who had a hand in this historic event. The USS Billings Commissioning Committee hosted a reception for all its sponsors at the Billings Hotel and Convention Center. As the namesake city, the Commissioning Committee was tasked with picking up a large part of the tab for the commissioning events in Key West. And even after all the expenses were paid, there will be more than $150,000 left over to support the sailors who will man that ship. It's a relationship that supporters say they hope will last for a long time between Billings and those who serve in the ship that bears its name.
It's been such an incredible story
awesome.
to
Yeah,
watch that journey right before they took off.
Yep.
And then when Hurricane Dorian,
Yep, they had to change some plans
shelter.
and all
Yep.
of that things. We just wish all of them, of course, all of our servicemen and women the best. But
it's great though. It's really fun to see
cruising
how that's
around on
come
the
full
USS
circle.
Billings. I
Yeah,
like it
that's
too.
fabulous. We do have to take a quick break, but we want you to stay with us in a moment.